Imagine the most exalted angel in heaven, Lucifer, the being created to lead and reflect the very glory of God, falling, rebelling against everything he represented. But why did he turn against his own creator? And even more intriguing, how could someone created in perfection with unparalleled beauty and wisdom manage to convince other angels to join him in such an epic rebellion? What you'll discover here goes beyond the stories you've heard, because this is a battle that continues today, influencing your choices, your conflicts, and even your social media. Get ready to see what truly triggered Lucifer's fall and how it impacts your life in ways you may never have imagined. By the end of this video, you'll never view the spiritual world the same way. Before being associated with evil, Lucifer was the most admired and exalted angel in heaven. His name, Light-Bearer, reveals an essence that was once magnificent, surrounded by honor and influence. Imagine someone whose radiance and beauty captivated like a rare jewel reflecting divine glory. In his wisdom, God entrusted Lucifer with a position of leadership among the angels, a role reserved for only a few. His presence inspired others, and his musical abilities, according to some scholars, were so profound that he led the angels in praise, bringing them to glorify the Creator and his creation. However, his path would change dramatically, and with it, the destiny of all. In this role, he was not just an angel, but a symbol of perfection and wisdom, a true manifestation of what one might imagine a perfect and grand angel to be. In this environment of honor and power, Lucifer held considerable influence over the angels. The Bible, especially in Ezekiel 28:12-15, gives a description often interpreted as referring to him, calling him the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. This level of glory and prestige was unparalleled, reaching the pinnacle of what an angel could aspire to in heavenly service. It's interesting to imagine that among countless celestial beings, God designated Lucifer as the example of perfection, the one who would illuminate and inspire others, both in beauty and purity. He was, so to speak, a figure of justified vanity, until his gaze shifted from his creator to himself. Lucifer, with his leadership role, can be seen as an almost paradigmatic figure. It's as if, in his position, he was at the top of the divine hierarchy, close to God, and with the responsibility of reflecting his light. Yet this closeness brought with it a power that could subtly shape his intentions, something that might resonate with people when they find themselves in positions of power and prestige. Often we see how influence, instead of strengthening character, awakens hidden desires, sparking vanity and pride. This seed of pride would become the root of a story that changed the course of the heavens, but at this point, Lucifer still shone like a star among the angels. Lucifer's prestige, combined with a dazzling beauty and an unusual ability to persuade, was also evident in his artistic abilities. According to some interpretations, music itself was part of his essence, a quality that made him even more imposing and respected. Imagine using music, that art that touches the soul, as an instrument of divine glory. In this way, he led worship and connected the angels to God. People can understand this by considering how music influences our feelings, connects us to unique moments, and even inspires us. He was the maestro of heavenly praise, transforming harmony into worship. But soon this gift would become a source of discord. This portrayal of Lucifer, the light-bearer, invites us to reflect on the duality of pride and humility. It's common to see public figures or people in positions of prestige facing similar dilemmas, where what gives them value can also become a pathway to vanity and self-sufficiency. Just as social media influences people's perceptions and egos today, so it was with Lucifer, who saw his beauty and position as something grand. His vanity, however, became increasingly evident to those who could perceive what lay beneath the surface. This point would be the root of an imminent problem, something that would eventually reveal itself in a devastating way. Lucifer's journey up to this point leads us to question, how does pride emerge so subtly and become the focus of one's soul? Lucifer's pride did not arise abruptly. It grew slowly, like a tiny seed planted in his heart. Over time, he began to see himself as unique, deserving of an even higher position than he already held. Isaiah 14:13-14 describes his thoughts. "I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. This desire to be more than he was, to rival God himself, shows how vanity can grow almost imperceptibly. This kind of pride is something many may know on a smaller scale, like when someone begins to believe they deserve more than others. Lucifer began to look not at God, but at himself, contemplating his own beauty and power as symbols of a greater destiny. This growing vanity overtook what had once been purity and loyalty. Pride blinded him, leading him to even question God's authority. After all, if he was so beautiful, so powerful, why should he submit? This desire for greatness took over his mind, steering him away from his original mission to serve and worship. In our world, pride and vanity often lead us to lose focus on what truly matters. It's like when social media makes us chase likes and approval, forgetting what really values our essence. Thus, Lucifer began to lose himself within, forgetting the true purpose of his existence. Alongside pride also came feelings of comparison and envy. He began to think that his splendor could outshine God's greatness, that his influence could surpass even the love and respect that everyone devoted to the Creator. This shift was so deep that he didn't realize how his heart was being corrupted. Pride made him believe he was worthy of worship, no longer just a reflection of divine light. It was as if he wanted to shine on his own. Today, we can understand what he felt by thinking about how easily we are deceived by the influence we believe we hold. This illusion led him to something unimaginable, rebelling against the one who created him. As his pride grew, Lucifer developed a sense of self-sufficiency. He no longer saw God as a guide, but as someone he should surpass. He desired more than just reflecting light. He wanted to be the very source. This desire is similar to the temptation we feel when we want absolute control over our lives, excluding any other power or counsel. For him, being alongside God was no longer enough. He wanted to sit on the throne. What begins as vanity then becomes an open rebellion, an attempt to place oneself above all else. This is the point where pride and self-sufficiency become the fuel for a path of no return. This uncontrollable pride was the breaking point that led Lucifer to openly defy divine authority. In his heart, influence and vanity transformed into an insatiable thirst for power and independence. He believed he could create a realm where he himself would be worshipped, where his name would be exalted. God, who knows all, observed his chosen angel succumbing to the deception of pride. Driven by pride, Lucifer initiated a rebellion that would shake the heavens. He believed that with his power and beauty, he deserved a position above the other angels and perhaps even above God. This boundless ambition led him to question divine authority, and he began sharing his ideas with other angels, persuading them to follow him. With great influence and charisma, Lucifer managed to attract a legion of angels to his cause, suggesting an alternative kingdom where he would rule. This act of disobedience marked the breaking point between Lucifer and God, sparking an unprecedented crisis in celestial history. The rebellion solidified when Lucifer, determined to fight for his cause, openly confronted heavenly authority. He and his followers prepared for battle, and heaven became the stage for an unimaginable conflict. Revelation 12:7-9 describes this confrontation. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, representing the division in heaven between angels loyal to God and those seduced by Lucifer's promises. What began as a notion of vanity and desire for power culminated in a direct war where every angel had to choose a side. Lucifer, who had once been one of the most exalted angels, now led a revolt against his own creator. The depth of his rebellion lay not only in insubordination, but in the attempt to subvert divine order and replace God's rule. This celestial battle was not merely a struggle for power, but a challenge to the principle of fidelity and respect for divine creation. In his prideful peak, Lucifer believed he could rival God himself, a mistake that would have irreversible consequences. In his mind, he already saw himself triumphing and taking control of a new realm. During the confrontation, the loyalty and courage of the faithful angels, led by Archangel Michael, were tested to the extreme. Michael and his army confronted Lucifer and the rebel angels in a fierce fight. This clash was the ultimate expression of a struggle between light and darkness, and it marked heaven forever. In his attempt to lead this revolution, Lucifer witnessed the power that love and loyalty to God could exert over those who remained faithful. The battle was unequal, for while he acted out of pride, the loyal angels fought with a higher purpose, to protect the peace of the heavenly realm. The rebellion led by Lucifer reached its decisive point when he and his followers were ultimately defeated. The Bible recounts this event with Jesus' striking words, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven," Luke 10:18. This moment marked Lucifer's definitive expulsion from the heavenly realm, where he, once the most beautiful and influential of angels, now found himself stripped of his power and position. The fall was abrupt and overwhelming, a punishment symbolizing the total loss of his former status and prestige. Now, he and his followers, once honored, were forever removed from divine glory and presence. Lucifer's expulsion was a scene of profound impact for all the angels who remained faithful. The one who had once been an example of light and purity was now cast out of heaven. This moment not only solidified the victory of loyalty over rebellion, but also showed everyone the seriousness of the commitment to God. Lucifer, who had so coveted absolute power, now had no more access to the heavenly kingdom. The loss of his position was irreversible, and his expulsion was a final sign that no form of disobedience would be tolerated in heaven. This permanent exile affected not only Lucifer, but also all the angels who chose to follow him. Like him, they were cast out of heaven, condemned to an existence of darkness and separation from God. The collective fall of these angels was a point of no return, an absolute rupture between them and the heavenly realm. Heaven, once a place of complete harmony, now witnessed the consequences of a powerful being's disobedience, whose influence had led others to ruin. This collective banishment symbolized the end of an era and the transition to a new reality, where Lucifer ceased to be an angel of light and became a symbol of opposition. After his expulsion from heaven, Lucifer was no longer the light-bearer, but became known as Satan, the adversary. This transformation was more than a change of name. It was a complete subversion of his purpose and essence. An angel created to reflect God's glory now assumed a role of direct opposition to the Creator and the divine plan. Lucifer, who had once been a figure of beauty, perfection, and power, now became the symbol of everything contrary to God, a fierce enemy of celestial light and order. His new identity represented everything he had chosen to reject: fidelity, obedience, and harmony. He was no longer the exalted leader of angels. Satan now represented the very darkness born of his pride. This change did not happen immediately. The fall left Lucifer in a state of spiritual ruin, isolated from God's glory and marked by the loss of his former position. However, resentment and bitterness soon grew within him, turning his wounded pride into a fierce determination to continue his defiance against God. In his mind, the expulsion was not the end, but a new opportunity to claim the power and glory he believed he deserved. This process of transformation from Lucifer to Satan occurred amid the pain of having been deprived of celestial light. What was once a desire for greatness now became an intense hatred for everything good. This directed hatred made him realize that although he had been cast out of heaven, there was still something he could reach: divine creation, humanity. If he could no longer reach God's throne, he could attack what God loved. His fall did not leave him powerless. On the contrary, he retained his cunning, his persuasive ability, and his deep understanding of God's purpose for the world. Now these gifts would be used not to guide and inspire, but to deceive and seduce. Lucifer, who was once the leader of celestial praise, became Satan, the master of manipulation, finding in deceit his new form of power. Satan's new identity thus meant that he would act as the accuser, a figure sowing distrust and rebellion. In texts like the Book of Job, we see Satan acting as humanity's adversary and accuser before God, questioning the loyalty and integrity of human beings. He no longer possessed the brilliance and glory that had once been his, but his power of manipulation made him a subtle threat, using half-truths and insinuations to derail God's plans. In his new state as Satan, his goal was not just to rebel, but to create a growing distance between God and his creation. The transformation from Lucifer to Satan also involved the complete loss of the love and compassion that had once been part of his essence. He no longer felt joy in worship or in communion with the Creator. On the contrary, he harbored a bitter satisfaction in perverting divine order. He became the opposite of everything he was meant to be. His role was now to corrupt, distort, and tempt those who still sought truth. Where he once led songs of praise, he now became the voice of doubt and opposition, urging creation to question God's goodness and justice. With this new mission, Satan became a being driven by a single purpose: to distance every creature from God's light, turning earth into the battleground for his revenge against the Creator. In the Garden of Eden, he found the opportunity to attack the relationship between God and the first humans, Adam and Eve. Satan used a subtle approach, disguising himself as a serpent to deceive Eve, and with cunning posed a question that planted doubt. Did God really say? Genesis 3:1. His goal was not merely to disobey God, but to undermine the trust that humans had in him. Satan knew that by instilling doubt and distrust, he was promoting the same rupture that had once separated him from heaven. This action was the beginning of his ongoing mission to draw creation away from the Creator. Using cunning, Satan manipulated God's words, making it seem as though he was hiding something valuable from Adam and Eve. The temptation offered not only the forbidden fruit, but also the false promise that by eating it, they would be like God, knowing good and evil. Genesis 3:5. This moment is emblematic because it reveals Satan's strategy of distorting truth and stirring the human desire for independence and power. With this approach, he succeeded in seducing the first humans into disobedience, bringing to light what he knew well: pride and vanity. This act, seemingly simple, marked the beginning of a long battle between good and evil, affecting all of humanity. Following this initial success, Satan established a pattern that would repeat over time. He realized that by appealing to pride and vanity, he could tempt humanity away from God, always offering a promise of power or pleasure that, in reality, was deceitful. He became the master of illusion, using his skills to make sin seem rewarding and independence from God feel liberating. His influence would expand through temptations and deception over the course of history, leading many to stray from divine teachings and lose sight of the truth. In today's era, we see his influence still active, now magnified through modern tools like social media and the quest for status. He works in subtle ways, encouraging pride and vanity, offering distorted visions of success and personal worth. At the same time, he fuels constant competition for recognition, a need to prove personal value instead of seeking connection with God. Just as in Eden, he still appeals to the human desire to be like God, leading each person to follow their own desires, believing this autonomy will bring true satisfaction. Beyond tempting individuals, Satan seeks to divide humanity, fostering rivalries and spreading discord. His schemes create walls between people, nations, and even families, always with the aim of ensuring that division prevails where unity once stood. His presence is like a persistent shadow, exploiting human weaknesses, moments of doubt, and dissatisfactions. At every opportunity, Satan works to shift the focus away from God, attempting to capture the human heart and mold it according to his purpose of opposition. He uses every means possible to make humanity forget its purpose, instead chasing an illusory, immediate satisfaction. This mission that Satan assumed after his fall is a relentless effort to lead creation away from the Creator, a never-ending battle whose intensity is reflected even today. Since becoming Satan, his goal has been to divert humans from God's path, placing them in constant conflict between good and evil. His presence on earth became a reality that everyone must contend with, and Scripture warns us about this tireless adversary. In 1 Peter 5:8, he is described as your adversary, the devil, prowling around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. This comparison to a lion in wait reveals Satan's persistent and dangerous nature, always seeking opportunities to weaken faith and sow chaos. The fall of Lucifer turned the world into a battleground between divine forces and opposing forces. Knowing human frailty and desires, Satan found in our nature a foothold for his strategies of deception and division. From his first encounter with Adam and Eve, he sought to exploit human vulnerabilities, offering shortcuts and pleasures that seduce and distract from the divine purpose. This continuous influence has led humanity into a constant spiritual struggle, where seemingly small choices can open doors to good or evil, affecting both individual lives and collective destiny. Satan's presence also introduced into the world the temptation to seek personal glory over that of God. Through his schemes, he encourages pride, vanity, and the desire to be independent of any divine authority. This temptation leads people to pursue selfish goals, placing their desires above God's teachings. The quest for influence and power often replaces the pursuit of humility and service to others, distorting the human heart. Social media perfectly exemplifies this dynamic, where many seek approval and validation instead of reflecting on their true purpose. This shift in focus is a direct reflection of Satan's influence in the world. Lucifer's fall thus unleashed a cycle of temptation and sin that affects every generation. Through his constant presence, he tries to draw people away from the truth, sowing doubt and offering false alternatives. Just as in Eden, he continues to question what God really said, planting confusion and suggesting that truth can be shaped to fit human desires. This spiritual battle requires vigilance, as his influences are not always obvious. Often they present themselves attractively and even temptingly, like a harmless choice that gradually leads away from God. Another important aspect of the implications of this fall is the constant conflict between spiritual peace and the anxiety Satan incites in humanity. He doesn't just try to separate people from God, but also fills them with fears and worries, robbing them of the peace that God offers. This cycle of anxiety is a powerful tool in his hands, keeping people occupied with their own concerns, distracting them from seeking a genuine connection with the Creator. Instead of rooting themselves in eternal values, they become prisoners of temporary anxieties, which often lead them to make hasty and harmful decisions. Thus, the implications of Lucifer's fall go beyond mere temptation. They permeate every aspect of human life, creating a spiritual battle that unfolds daily. Satan, the adversary, works to distance humanity from its true calling, interfering in relationships, peace, and the search for the divine. But even with this constant influence, God offers the hope that with vigilance and faith, it is possible to resist these traps. Since his expulsion, Satan's fate has been sealed in Scripture. The Bible reveals that despite his constant efforts to lead people astray and deceive, his defeat is certain and definitive. Revelation 20:10 tells us of his ultimate fate. And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. They will be tormented day and night, forever and ever. This verse indicates that although Satan acts on earth, tempting and dividing, God's final judgment will prevail. This destiny not only closes the cycle of rebellion that began in heaven, but also reaffirms the triumph of divine justice and love over evil. This fate is a reminder that evil, no matter how influential it may seem, is temporary and will be overcome. The Bible describes a scenario of restoration, where God, at the end of time, will create new heavens and a new earth. Revelation 21:1, a creation purified and restored to its original perfection. Satan and his works will have no place in this new order, for God will have established his justice definitively. For those who persevere in faith, this promise of restoration is a source of hope and confidence. After all, the spiritual battles and challenges faced in this world will be overcome, and God's peace will reign eternally. Satan's fate also confirms God's supremacy over all creation. The one who once tried to usurp God's glory will be reduced to nothing, becoming the ultimate example of the consequences of rebellion and disobedience. The lake of fire represents total defeat, a place where the pride and vanity that once defined him are eternally nullified. This outcome serves as both a lesson and an inspiration for those who choose faithfulness to God, reminding us that even when evil seems to prevail, it does not have the final word. God, in his justice, restores balance and ensures that the divine order will be permanently re-established. For humanity, God's victory over Satan is an invitation to perseverance and trust. Knowing that evil has an appointed end motivates us to resist Satan's temptations and influences, confident that our faithfulness will be rewarded. The Bible presents several passages that encourage us to resist the devil and draw closer to God, such as James 4:7. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. God's triumph over evil is therefore a promise of peace, an end to conflicts, and an eternity of union with the Creator. By dedicating ourselves to a life aligned with this hope, we prepare ourselves to share in God's glory. This ultimate fate is, above all, a message of hope and redemption for all creation. Lucifer's fall, which triggered an era of conflict and suffering, will be reversed by divine victory. God's plan from the beginning included the redemption of humanity and the defeat of evil. God's final victory over Satan is a testament to divine patience and mercy, offering countless opportunities for repentance and the pursuit of a true and fulfilling life. For all who remain steadfast, this certainty is a consolation, for one day all suffering will be eliminated and peace will reign absolutely. Thus, Satan's final fate marks God's victory and the redemption of his people. This outcome invites us to remain in truth, resisting the snares and deceptions the adversary offers. With the assurance that God will prevail, each person is called to reflect on their role in the spiritual journey, remembering that divine triumph is not only the end of a battle, but the beginning of an eternity of communion and peace with the Creator. Now that you understand Lucifer's journey, from perfect angel to adversary, one question remains: how does this ancient story impact your life? Seeing how pride and the pursuit of power can lead even the highest to fall, it becomes clear that this conflict is not only spiritual, but deeply human. Consider your own daily choices. What influences do you allow into your life? Who or what sets your priorities, and how far do you want to go? With this story, the decision to not be swayed by vanity and the insatiable quest for power becomes even more significant. But what about you? How do you perceive the influence of pride and temptations around you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to know what part of this story impacted you the most. If this video impacted you in any way, leave a like. It helps others find this content and, who knows, might lead them to discover something that could change their lives as well. And if you want to continue this journey of knowledge and reflection, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the upcoming videos. After all, we're just beginning to explore questions that truly have the power to transform how we see the world and ourselves. See you in the next video.